Yeehaw! It's time for the Texans Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Houston Texans, every week. Bringing you the big hits, game-changing plays, and all the action straight from the Lone Star State. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Saddle up and squad up. It's the Texans Squad Show, starting now.
And the whole squad is back together today for the Texans Squad Show here on the Locked On Texans YouTube page, anywhere that you get your podcast. We are with you Tuesdays and Fridays. 6 p.m. is our normal starting time here on the show. I am Michael Connor. That's Dan Norfleet over there, I think to my right or to my left. John Hickman below me. Iisha Morrison down there in the other corner. We are with you for an hour of Houston Texans conversation. A lot to get into as this team is into the second little stint here of OTAs in the middle of June, or not the middle of June, the early part of June now. But guys, the thing that we talked about, and John, you weren't with us the other day, so it's good to have you back and get you. We'll get to see what, we'll get to see what how you and Stan go at this here in just a second. But obviously, we talked a lot, Iisha and Stan, about the CJ Stroud situation over the weekend when we did the show on Saturday. Not throwing a football last week, comes back out today, and I think the thing that catches all of the headlines today more than anything else that goes on when you're in shorts and a t-shirt. I know that there's other headlines, but of course this is the number one, is that DeMeco Ryans does not really enjoy the having to answer questions about CJ Stroud and why he's not participating, and calls it general soreness. So the question as we start the show tonight is, are we buying or are we selling general soreness with CJ Stroud?
I don't know about you guys, but I'm not really concerned too much. Listen, so when I talk about certain things, I like to make sense of certain things. For Texan fans out there, Stan, you've covered this team for a while, especially during your time during 790. Like when you look at how the Houston Texans have handled injury issues in the past. Christian Harris, who we finally got word that he should be ready for training camp. Nico Collins throughout the year last season, and just since DeMeco Ryans has arrived, and we can go back to Nick Caserio. Like they don't necessarily kind of be open with injury histories and things of that nature. So the concern for some people, I can understand it. The reason why I am not concerned is they don't have on pads. They don't have on pads, man. So like even if he was out there, what good would that do for CJ Stroud? For me right now, when I am more so worried about, okay, where's your mind in terms of how you connecting with the playbook and the offensive staff? But I think it's not that big of a deal just yet. And as long as I see him out there during July when training camp kicks off, I'm fine.
What you got, Stan?
Ding, 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 ding.
We need that sound on here.
Yeah, we do. I got to find it.
We do got to get some buttons.
They wanted us to leave nothing to see here last week. Okay. Didn't like it last week. All the other guys, that play in conference title games and Super Bowls, they're all throwing the ball around. But you want me to believe a dude that's been through 2 years in this league and regressed last season, mechanics went to hell, I'm supposed to just give him blind faith with a new OC and a first-time OC and play caller that everything's going to be all right. All right, CJ, I'll give you 1 week. Maybe, you slept on your shoulder wrong or something like that. Okay, cool. I told y'all on Sunday, my concern meter was at about a 5 on Saturday. I'm sorry. I said, if he doesn't throw on Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to take it up to a 7. DeMeco didn't help. DeMeco was asked point blank, was there an off-season procedure? And he did not answer the question. He was evasive, elusive, vague. He was also asked, was head coach DeMeco Ryans point blank? Will we see him at minicamp next week? DeMeco, evasive, vague, dismissive, but not of a disrespectful nature. Just kind of omitted the question. I'm going to leave with this, and I got some other stuff, but I don't want to take the time. What's keeping me from being a 9 or a 10 is that CJ was cited shooting a basketball here in Houston.
Come on, man. That's soda fine.
Con over the weekend.
That's soda fine. It was nothing but net too, man. Your soda ain't good if you
damn if he shot 99%. If he's not throwing the football, it doesn't matter. CJ Stroud should be throwing the football behind a brand new offensive line, new weapons at the wide receiver spot. By the way, Christian Kirk did practice today. He didn't practice last week. Good to see him back on the practice field. With a new play caller, new weapons, these young rookies at wide receiver we'll talk about. CJ Stroud should be throwing the football, and y'all know it. You just don't want to act concerned, but deep down, you know you are.
Iisha?
You don't understand?
For right now.
Okay. All right. So for me, I think I'm more leaning towards John after I kind of sat on it for the weekend. As far as, hear me out, tater tots. I feel like he should be, because it's a new install. That's my biggest concern. Obviously, the health portion is something we need to keep an eye on. I think John poses a good point. Like mini camps coming up, if he ain't suiting up then I think I want to ask some questions, and that's what I said on Saturday. But as far as like, it's the fact that it is a new OC. It is the fact that you do have new weapons. You have some younger guys there that need to adjust to who their quarterback is going to be, because we all know that quarterbacks ain't all made the same. So how Mills delivers the ball is not how Stroud delivers the ball. You talked about the stand last week on Saturday. He talked about the spacing involved, even with the tackles. You know, when they're coming out of their kick step, all this stuff, like it matters. And so that is the biggest portion of it that I care about, is the familiarity, the cadence, like the feel, and the fact that he's not getting that right now. Because Stan said it the other day, I'm not a person that thinks that OTAs are for nothing. I'm not. I know a lot of people be like, oh, you're not working. It's about the learning. It's about the process. It's about learning your other teammates and all that stuff. So him not being out there matters to me from that standpoint. But I guess we just gonna have to see what happens next week when minicamp comes around, if he's gonna suit up or not.
I do want to add to both of y'all points. I'm sorry.
Iisha, where are you at 10?
At a 10, I would say I'm at a solid, I'm like halfway. I'll say I'm at a 5. I think if he doesn't do anything in minicamp, it might go up to like a shit.
Hickman.
And then
I'm at a 4.
Yeah, I'm at like a 5.
But I agree with the point. Like if it gets around the June 10th and we're still not seeing CJ Stroud, which is next week, that's when they kick off mandatory mini camps, then my concern level will rise. I think for me right now, when I look at what's going on, I know how CJ can throw the ball. I know he can deliver the ball. I know that last year he took a lot of hits, some hits that maybe towards the end of the year he may be created from holding on to the ball too long. But
you mean they broke him? Yeah.
If that's how you want to, yeah, I'm not mad at that. He was broken last year towards the end of the year. Okay. So I look at all of that and I say to myself, last week, this week, I'm okay with him not necessarily throwing the ball. What I would have had an issue with is not seeing him at all before June 10th.
Fair point. Someone reported, there are multiple out there, that CJ did indeed, where is this thing at? One source, according to Aaron Wilson, there was no off-season surgery. That's what a source is telling him.
But then that's the question. Why did DeMeco not just shut it down?
Well, that's what I'm like. What are we doing? Now, maybe DeMeco just had a PR. Maybe Nico had a PR snafu. But, Coach, you've been through this 2 years. You got to know going in, when you got a quarterback that's banged up, it's going to be a thing until it's no longer a thing.
But he never really puts his players out like that. I mean, and for me, that was the issue last year a little bit with Christian Harris. Like, where is Christian Harris? And he always kind of, takes and that may be the player in him still. Like, he always takes his player size, and it's kind of like, it's not a big deal. It's not a big concern. We're moving on to the next week. That's just who he is. And so when it gets repetitive like that, you kind of already know what to expect. Just find a different angle to kind of cover, in my opinion.
He should have just done the old, you guys remember this, the old Dusty Baker move and just said HIPAA. Just moved on. And so nobody can ask anything.
You have to win it. So
CJ did throw, per reports, lightly from a short distance. So I'm not saying that the shoulder is broken. Clearly, he's not in a sling. Clearly, if he's shooting a three-pointer at some dream con, I don't know what that is, but apparently it's a big deal.
It's for us millennials, man. It's for us millennials. It ain't for y'all.
Down Richmond Road. I don't know what the hell that is, but that's what they were doing. So clearly he's not in the sling. When you can't answer about the offseason procedure, and you can't tell me if he's going to be at mandatory minicamp, you open it up to have more of these conversations. Now, let me also get back to the words DeMeco did utter, and I quote, general soreness, another quote, a tight shoulder muscle. DeMeco, how was the arm fatigued and we just started OTAs? Sore from what exactly? We deserve an explanation. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Maybe he's
that's what I said on Saturday. That's what I said on Saturday is that I think people aren't asking the right questions because I think if someone, I'm like where I think people would feel more comfortable if they knew like what it came from, but maybe they're not saying what it came from because they don't want any backlash from even that. They don't want him receiving backlash from that.
When do we hit the panic button, though? That's the next. So I don't know their media availability for players and whatnot. We don't know if CJ is going to speak here this week, but like, is it simply going to take CJ getting up there at the podium and answering some questions for us to get rid of the worry that we have?
No.
And furthermore, on top of that, when does the worry kind of dial back for us? Like for us here on the show, media members, fans alike, like when do we sit and say, okay, now the shoulder concern that we have is a little bit more at ease.
When the starting quarterback is throwing the ball to his receivers behind the starting offensive line, I will feel better about what's going on. I'm at 7. I think it is 7 worthy. We got to stop acting like this is normal. And CJ doesn't have the credibility nor the clout to come into an OTA with all this newness around and just be like, everything's chill. We good. New O-line coach, new OC, new offensive line, new weapons on the perimeter for everybody not named Nico Collins and John Mechie for what that is. This is concerning to a point. Now, the question and the point that I would like to make at the same time is, what part of the GM, and this is the former scout in me for the short time that I was in Washington, you must prepare for a contingency plan on every position on your roster. If, for some reason, and we're early with this, they have to start the year with Davis Mills at quarterback. Because right now he is the number 2.
John, stop laughing. My face.
All I'm saying is, what if? So this, you see what I'm saying? Connect the dots. When did he hurt the shoulder? How hurt is the shoulder? We know, we talked about this on Saturday, John. The shoulder was hurt at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. When he got knocked out, he originally got knocked out in the Arizona game. Then he got knocked out for real by Quentin Williams at the Jets game. And while he was recovering during the 2024 season, I believe, he said, or 23 season, he said during the concussion protocol, his shoulder was able to get healed. So the arm has been a reoccurring theme here. Hello, Kevin Durant. Anybody remember that? They told us nothing to see here until it was something to see here.
Well, in fairness to KD, he still goes out there and, is a monster. You don't think CJ's still going to figure out how to be a monster?
Didn't nobody believe that, man. I know I didn't.
In all seriousness, though, Davis Mills, a guy that went out there week 18, CJ throws a touchdown to Nico. He comes out the game. Davis Mills, the last time we saw him, week 18 versus at Tennessee, they win 23-14, 54%, 12 of 22, 128 yards, 0 tugs, 0 picks, 5-19-1 as a starter in the league. Are we ready to begin discussing, at least mentioning, the backup quarterback position in Houston?
Not at all.
We can save that for just a few seconds because we'll get to our quick timeout, and I'll let you guys sit on it for a second, and we'll fight it out if they can handle this in Stan's mind. That's next year on the Locked On Texans Squad Show. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when 5 o'clock hits. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you find or write, your job descriptions, and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to the profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. Now, no wonder there's 72% of small businesses who say LinkedIn has helped them hire the right high-quality candidates. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonNFL. That's linkedin.com/lockedonNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Texan Squad Show. We're breaking down the latest on the OTAs. Michael Connor, Stan Norfleet, John Hickman, Iisha Morrison. We're here with you twice a week, Tuesdays, Fridays, the typical schedule at 6 p.m. Thank you to those of you that are also listening on the wherever it is that you get your podcast. Make sure you're also listening to John with the Locked On Texans Daily podcast, whether it's YouTube and, again, anywhere that you get your podcast. We appreciate you, however you're taking in this show with us every single week. CJ Stroud, no throwing again today. CJ Stroud not speaking to the media. DeMeco Ryans saying general soreness and then doesn't want to really answer any more questions about it. So we're getting through all of it. And you guys wanted to talk a little bit about the backup situation, the level of comfort you do have if there is something to happen to CJ Stroud to where he's not playing this season. Now, I will say for myself, I don't think Davis Mills is the worst backup quarterback in the world. Is he great? No, of course not. Stan, you mentioned the record a minute ago. I mean, I give him a little bit of a pass because what was one of those? A lot of those came in the Lovey year, right? I mean, it is what it is that year. But you're probably not going to win all your games, or even anywhere near the amount of games that you have, or that you would with CJ Stroud out there. So, where are you guys in terms of Davis Mills?
For me, man, I mean, realistically, who's going to be comfortable with their backup going out there to start the year? So, I think it'll be a problem. It'll be a huge issue. Now, MC, to your point, Davis ain't the worst in the world. Like, if Tennessee decides to roll with their backup, that'll be Will Levis. So I think Houston will be a little bit better off than maybe some other teams, but Houston cannot afford to not have CJ out there, so it will be a big issue, and it will become concerning if we are seeing Davis Mills still taking first team reps in at the end of July. But for me right now, my bigger concern is who's going to be the legit CB3 for this team over backup quarterback, because I don't have a thought in my mind that makes me believe we won't see CJ out there. Now, if we don't, Stan, it's going to be a big issue.
I'm sorry. Has CJ Stroud played 17 games the 2 years each season that he's been in this league, or has he missed games every year?
Was it
15 1 year?
I just asked a
Is it
simple
15
question.
to 15?
Yeah, no, yes. It's something. It's like 15 and 16, something like that.
Has CJ Stroud started?
No, yeah, he played 17 last year.
Okay, so the year before he missed 17, he didn't make it through. Okay.
He missed two. Yeah, he missed 2 in the first year.
Correct, and that was the concussion. We talked about that. If you go around the league, I referenced it last week's show. We saw what Doug Peterson did with Nick Foles when Carson Wentz went down. We go up 45 north, up there where Iisha is at.
Wait a minute.
That goes down. Cooper Rush went what, 5-1? Didn't Cooper Rush go 5-1? Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh has won games as a backup. Whoever the guy was, I can't think his name, in Cincinnati when Joe Burrow was banged up 2 seasons ago. You have to have a functional backup if and when, and in this league, it's more likely when you need the guy to come in and be at least serviceable, and you better build out, and thankfully, Caserio and DeMeco have done that. They have built out the rest of this roster. They better be able to run the football. That's number one. This offensive line, they better be able to run the football and protect no matter who it is. And these young guys that everybody is hanging their hopes and dreams on have better be able to get open in this league. I'm not concerned about this defense one iota. This is arguably the best defense in the league. Now, the rest of the pieces that I talked about, I have reason to be concerned, but it's Caserio's job to have some foresight and to have a contingency if he has to press the button.
So then we get to the conversation of who's out there, what's worth spending money on. And Nick Folk was already a start in this league. He had took the Philadelphia Eagles to the playoffs before that Super Bowl run. Cooper Rush did it. When was this, in 23?
Somewhere around there.
23. I mean, the Cowboys were in much better shape. So I would look at what year was it?
Yeah, it was the Dallas defense was formidable.
Yeah, I mean they were that was a good team altogether.
Cooper Rush was not turning the football over. He was playing good football.
He was playing good football, but I look at the situation that Cooper Rush was in and where Davis Mills is now. Like, he could very well benefit from having a great defense, a refined offensive line, and better offensive scheme and coaching. So, who's out there for Houston? If the worry is CJ won't be ready for Week 1, who's out there for Houston that's reasonable, that wouldn't cost a lot in terms of draft capital for a 1-year rental?
I think you're going about it the wrong way. Iisha, you can get in here. I'm not saying that they've already told us Davis Mills is the backup. I ask you to recall now, this is Nick Casario's first ever draft selection in the 3rd round out of Stanford with Davis Mills. He's still on the roster. This is now 3 seasons they've had the chance to get somebody better, going into the 3rd season, get somebody better than Davis Mills. Davis Mills is the backup. What I'm saying is I have to at least have the conversation. What if he's needed? What does it look like? Real quick, Week 1 at the Rams, playoff team. Week 2, I'm thinking about the Chargers. Week 2, Tampa, playoff team. Division 4, Jacksonville, Week 3. Division 4, Tennessee, Week 4. Point is, and I can't remember if the Rams made the playoffs or not that last year.
They made the playoffs. They actually had a very good playoff run until
gotcha. So you start the year with 2 playoff teams and then 2 division games. So we're getting way, way, way down the calendar. We have to be thinking about what if. Because this CJ thing, again, I'm level 7. We can leave it alone and turn our attention to the DBs if you want.
I'll just give you guys this. Hear me out real quick. Aaron Rodgers.
Michael, why would you say
his first job as general manager?
I'm totally kidding.
In Aaron Rodgers.
Michael, why would you say that?
You did that thing that we do. You just did the thing.
Yeah, I couldn't resist.
You know this is gonna circulate in the Chronicle tomorrow.
He's the enigma. He's the one that's still sitting out there. Every day I see something about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers somewhere, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll just mention it. Why not?
It's too hot for a high out here in Houston for Aaron Rodgers.
Please, we're not.
But
please.
Ronald Darby.
Well, Ronald Darby, yes, he did retire.
I think that's a real concern, guys.
All right, so why is that a concern? What's the biggest concern here for the Texans losing Ronald Darby? For those that didn't know, he just abruptly retired today.
John, I was going to ask you, so when you said who's going to be the 3 corner, are you referring to the nickel?
No.
Are you referring to a boundary?
I'm referring to who's going to be the vet to come in to be the outside cornerback just in case.
Behind Stingley and behind Lassiter, who would be
behind those 2 young men? Because, and Iisha, I really want to get you to dive into this. I know Gilmore is out there, but
hey, don't say his name too loud. Don't say his name too loud.
I'm sorry, Gilmore, Stephon Gilmore.
He's 40 years old.
But so when we look at the Houston Texans issues last year, whether it was Stingley missing some time, Kamari missing, like whenever they had to put in another guy on the outside, it was trouble for Houston. Now, Miles Brown was able to come in and hold his own on the inside, play some good nickel for Houston. But an outside corner was a weakness. Wasn't a big weakness, but it was a weakness. Jeff Okudah didn't work out. CJ Henderson didn't even get a shot for the regular season, and I don't think he played in the preseason as well. Ronald Darby was expected to be that vet to fill that role. I already had reservations about him then because he was toast last year. No disrespect. So I think for Houston, they just freed up a bunch of money because of the Shaq Mason post cut. Yeah. It is time for them to kind of keep their eye on who's available right now and get a sense and feel of, okay, who's going to be out there once we start getting some of these preseason cuts as well. But Iisha, in your mind, is that a concern for you, or do you believe in Stingley and Lassiter being able to hold it down?
I mean, no. Listen. I mean, the other team in Texas has been through not having enough corners to field and going and pick up people that worked at Buc-ee's to come play cornerback. So I've been there, seen that, know what that's like. If you can go out and get a guy, and I will say in regard to Gilmore, his tape in Minnesota was solid. I mean, he was a part of that defense and he played a role in that defense, and he still wasn't afraid to tackle and be physical and the things he needed to do. And even in his time with Dallas, he was a bridge, like a huge bridge. And furthermore, the mentorship that a lot of those guys got from him while he was present here is something that Deron Bland and those gentlemen will talk about for years over. So I think that he's still – the only reason why I'm telling y'all to stop saying his name out loud, because the other team in Texas might need a corner too. So listen, it sounds like, especially with this Darby thing, I don't know if anybody asked, like, was this abrupt? Like, it was abrupt. Were they expecting this at all?
No.
So they might be shopping too.
Well, DeMeco said today that they were going to go look to see.
Yeah, I heard him say that.
Yeah, DeMeco said in the presser at the end of practice today, we're going to go look, and he specifically said veteran. We're going to go look for a veteran and see if there's somebody. So I have a list of the available veterans here. You know, James Bradbury will be 32, former Eagle. There's Kendall Fuller, former Dolphin. Stephon Gilmore, we discussed. Rasul Douglas, I think, has come through. There's CJ Henderson. He's already been through here. Shaq Griffin came and went through here as well. I mean, there's not a lot. Emmanuel Mosley. Asante Samuel Jr. is 25. I think
he is young, but he's more of an
inside
corner. Am I right or wrong?
I think he was more inside. You could be correct there. I mean, there's just not a lot out there, or they would be on somebody's roster. So I tend to think maybe the answer was already on the roster. You hinted the name that I had down here, though he played mostly a nickel corner spot with another one of those former Patriots. Miles Bryant, 17 games started since 2020. He did not start for the Texans last year, but he was on the team last year coming over from New England. So obviously, you know, Kaylee's going to have some familiarity with him, I do believe. Caserio is a large reason why he's here. Here's a guy that has some experience. The moment is not going to be too big for him. Coached by Bill Belichick, obviously, has got to give him a leg up on any of these other young guys. So I would put my money on DeMeco crafting some sort of defense where Miles Bryant becomes that third corner until they can get maybe rookie third rounder out of University of Southern California, Jalen Smith. Maybe they get him caught up to speed. I hear he's really gravitated to, what are they calling, Hawk and Lock. That's what they're calling Kamari Lassiter and former rookie Kalen Bullock. So he's been hanging with those guys. So perhaps Jalen could develop and Miles Bryant could be the bridge.
Who was the third gentleman you named? I mean, I don't think Rasul Douglas would be a bad fit.
He's 30. He'll be 31.
Yeah,
age is just a number, Stan. Get over it.
The hell it is in the National Football League. Age matters. You see all these old dudes retiring. David Andrews saying no. Brandon Graham, I'm done. This game is hard.
Well, honestly, the best corner that you named on that list is Stephon and Stan. As far as tape goes,
and I think for Houston, they were looking for a vet that's, seasoned, that can come in and be ready when needed. Like they're in a good position. They don't need a CB2. They have those starting spots locked in. They have their nickel locked in. They don't need it. They want one because they understand if we look at our sins of last year, whenever we had to go to somebody else outside, oh man, we was toast. And based off of what Gilmore was able to bring to the field last year, he would be a player that certain packages, certain situations, also seasoned vet. Okay, we can bring you in, trust you to do what needs to be done, have you out there on limited playing snaps whenever we need you, because we got two young studs out there that we trust a lot. So it's all about insurance. And for the Houston Texans, if you're going to go with insurance, go with a guy that you absolutely know can hold it down when out on the field, that has the proof in the pudding. It may be Gilmore.
I also want to add right now, number 2 on the depth chart, as we've been trying to put this thing together. The Texans did go get Tremont Smith from Denver and brought him over. So right now, he will be a guy in Darby's absence that would go in on the other side of third-round rookie Jalen Smith. So it's something to keep our eyes on. I think about what Caserio was able to do, 2 years ago when they went and found Noah Fant?
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen him do some things around training camp to really buffer, and case in point, injuries up front in CJ's first year, Noah Fant was a godsend. They were able to bring him in and he held things down.
I will say y'all being a little like, listen, obviously you want depth and you want, people to be there, but everybody ain't got no third, fourth, fifth corner that can come in and just play. Like, that's not the norm in this league. So if you guys are able to, if the Texans are able to grab someone, that would be awesome. But that's just kind of how football is. Most people with their starting roster, that's what they got. I mean, you might have depth at some spots, but it's slim pickings depending on the position as well. So y'all might end up having to run with what's on the roster anyway, because it sounds like what you're saying to me, John, it sounds like Stephon Gilmore's going to have a market. And he's an older guy, so he ain't gonna show up and sign nowhere until like training camp, something like that. So that's just.
And it might be after week 1 where the veteran contract is guaranteed.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people wait until week 2. The other thing
Go ahead, Stan.
I'm sorry. The other thing I wanted to point out, coming back to you, MC, is the pass rush and coverage go together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So with the DBs, at least the corners on the outside being challenged right now with depth, DeMeco and Matt Burke, the defensive coordinator by title, Matt Burke, they may have to ratchet up their pressure packages, and they know that their football has got to come out from the quarterback. So I think this could be, we're talking so much about the corners that are available. This could be about Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., DeMeco Archery, and others pinning their ears back. Darrell Taylor and some other guys backing up that defensive end spot. And let's go put some pressure on some guys and get that ball out to take some of that pressure off of our safeties.
Which was the case for Houston a lot last year, too. Good point.
The good news is that they have plenty of options to go and rush a quarterback. That is the good news. Let's take a quick timeout, and when we get back, last year, a predictor for this year. Is it or is it not? It's next here on the Locked On Texans Squad Show. It is the Squad Show. Michael Connor, Stan Norfleet, John Hickman, Iisha Morrison. We're with you twice a week here on the show. Thank you for watching, listening, wherever it is that you're coming in, whether it's live or later on. We appreciate you. 1 hour of Texans conversation twice a week, and they're giving us plenty of stuff to talk about, which is good because here's the other truth soon. I mean, look, we're going to get creative, guys, in the next couple of weeks. When they're not, with that period between the end of minicamp to training camp, we're going to be doing, unless CJ Stroud doesn't throw the football, we're going to have some fun probably because there's not going to be a lot going on, but that's okay.
The slow grind.
Yeah, it's the hot summer days, and the hot summer days are going to lead to training camp eventually. And now, Stan, you brought this one up to us in our little group message before the show got started today. The conversation in terms of, can you use some performances from last year with rookies, not first-round rookies, obviously, coming in and helping you immediately? Does it make you feel any better about some young guys this season? And I know there are a couple of your favorite young guys to talk about. Can you bank on success based off seeing success for other rookies in last season's first year?
In my estimation, I think the game of football has taught me that every situation is different. The circumstances are different. The rules change. The environment changes. The play callers change on either side of the football. The schedule has a lot to do with performance. So there are a lot of different variables that keep me from making a blanket statement. But specific to what we see here in Houston, and this came up in something I heard on local radio in the city today, do we trust that DeMeco and the development and the progression of Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock, that Hawk and Locke, as that duo is called, apparently they're BFFs and they go everywhere together. They're actually leaving OTA practices, going to another local trainer here in the market and getting some extra work in, bringing some of the rookies like Jalen Smith along with them. So all that's well and good. Those guys cut it on at the end of the year. I thought Bullock was a better prospect than Lassiter. I was proved to be right. Bullock is all rookie in the NFL. Lassiter is not. We'll deal with that another time, John.
Which is crazy.
The second thing is, people voted. I mean, it's history at this point. It is what it is. The other thing is, I'd like to say, like some people saying, because the second and third round pick last year and the success they had on the defensive side of the football, DeMeco's side, the best side in terms of the most productive, does that mean that Higgins and Noel out of Iowa State this year can be as productive. Can they be? That's between them and God. I can only talk about what the projections are, and I can only talk about what the history tells me. Here's what the history tells me. History tells me there's a new offensive coordinator. Are we sure he's not another Bobby Sloyd?
Oh, don't start that.
I'm just saying, do you know?
He's going to
Just
start.
because he coached with McVay, what the hell does that mean? So did Brandon Staley. What did that get done? How do we know how they will translate to the NFL game? How do we know what the injury history will be? It happens. It's the National Football League. It's not about if, it's when you go down. How do we know that they will be in sync with CJ Stroud, especially if he's not throwing the football? I challenge you, and I did this homework because I didn't have it on Saturday, and I felt some type of way about it. Find me a Big 12 wide receiver that has done any work on a Sunday, not named CeeDee Lamb in the last 5 and 6 seasons.
Hollywood Brown is a 1,000-yard receiver.
Hollywood Brown has not done a thing.
1,000 yards.
He's never been to a Pro Bowl. He has never done anything meaningful in the postseason.
But
see now,
the Texans don't need
actually that's kind of moving the needle a little bit. The question is, find you a Big 12 receiver that has done something in the NFL
in the last 5 years, and you gave me Hollywood Brown, who's on his third team.
That's one. So here's the thing about both Jaden Higgins.
An answer to the question, people.
That's a 1,000-yard receiving receiver.
Stop this. You know good and well if the Houston Texans are relying on Higgins and Noel to be Hollywood Brown, this team is in trouble.
So here's the thing about both Higgins and Noel. And if you guys are watching, please check out the Rookie Diaries that I'm doing right now. It's a series on the rookies that were drafted in 2025. I had Coach Noah Pauly on to discuss Jaden Higgins. The Jalen Noel episode will be dropping soon. When you look at, last year, Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock, those two players got on the field because it was a necessity for them, for the Texans. They needed a cornerback too last year, right or wrong?
They needed one.
They didn't bring back Steven Nelson. They didn't necessarily, like their investments in that cornerback room. Yeah. Can't count Derek Stingley. He was already here. But for 2024, it was Jeff Okudah, it was CJ Henderson, and it was Kamari Lassiter. They needed Kamari. Same for the safety position. They needed Kalen Bullock to be out there. So when I look at the Houston Texans in terms of banking on the success, I could say yes because I'm also banking on the situation. Houston needs Jaden Higgins to be out there. I mean, you don't give a second-round player a fully guaranteed contract.
I need a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, but I don't have one.
We're locked on. Maybe we'll get some nice bonuses at
the end of the year. Get some better checks. There we go.
But I look at the situation of both those young men, specifically Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins is going to be counted on to be a starter week 1. Jalen Noel, I think, because of his X-factor ability, special teams, what he can do inside and outside, it'll be a gradual, slow progress for him to start being a real impact player. But I do think they'll find a way to get him involved early because of his special team ability and how he's able to return the ball.
I agree.
But absolutely for Jaden Higgins, yes, I think he'll be able to come in barring any injury because I thought the same of Kamari Lassiter last year. They needed Kamari Lassiter to be a good number 2
Kamari Lassiter was a dog in the SEC, winning a ton of games, including the national championship, going up against the elite athletes in the sport. He was not going up against that unranked TCU and some other crap they playing in the Big 12. What are we doing in Texas?
The Big 12 is fine. Quit crapping on the Big 12. Why do you hate the Big 12 so much?
I'm just telling you where the players come from.
I will say I had the opportunity. Let me say I did have the opportunity to see Jalen Noel at the Senior Bowl. I got to see him in one-on-ones. I got to see him up close in some of the competitive period, and he stood out. The speed stood out, and the usage of the speed. I think he uses it well at the top of his route. To create separation. The thing about the question that you asked him is that I think that football is different. I think football is changing. And in a sense that these kids are required more often than not now from almost every position, except for maybe defensive tackle, to come in and to be NFL ready, to be
Then
ready
why
to play.
in the last 6 years we don't have a receiver from the Big 12 not named CeeDee Lamb?
And I understand that. Maybe that's scouting, that's coaching. There's a lot of different factors as to why that could be that have nothing to do with the transition to the league. I think that it also too is that now everything's kind of in a microwave. So most teams do expect for these young players to come in and start and play and make a difference. And again, that's almost every position. That's not just it's not just the running back position as it used to be, where it's like, oh, people expect for the running back to come in and start. Mm-hmm. Quarterbacks are expected to come in and start. Defensive ends are expected to come back and start, and they be lighting the ass. I mean, let's keep it 1,000. Like, so this is not just this position group. So I understand what you're saying, Stan, but that's just not how football works anymore, unless you are a defensive tackle or unless you're a linebacker. That's not the philosophy. These teams
I couldn't disagree further. I couldn't disagree more. The nature
these teams do expect for kids. There's no development, Stan. What time do they have to develop? That's why they're going to all these specialists and stuff. NFLPA comes down and says, hey, you can't be doing all that during practice. They can't even get physical like that. So that's just kind of the nature of football to me now, is that the expectation. And I'm not saying the expectation is right, Stan. I'm not saying that. I don't think that everything should be microwave. I think these guys should get time to fit into a system and take the time to, to develop. However, what teams are really, let's be real here, what teams are really valuing development like that? We're in a microwave league right now. And I don't like that. But these kids, they understand that coming in now. I think they understand that they are expected to go play, and they can't waste time.
I made the point last week, and you and I disagree, and I'm going to push back vehemently here. Mm-hmm. I'm not disagreeing that the kids are expected to go and be productive. If that's the case, then go to where the players are. You built this program of the Houston Texans at Ohio State and Notre Dame and Georgia and the University of Southern California and Penn State and Alabama. Go to where the players are. If this was Emeka Egbuka and he had fell to the second round, I wouldn't be having this conversation. If this was Luther Burden III, who the Bears are happy as hell to have, if you go read their press reports.
Oh, I know. I like Luther.
Luther was still on the board when Jaden Higgins was selected. I'm not saying that I hope these guys do develop. I understand that they're expected, to your point, John, they need a wide receiver too right now. Tank Dell is probably not going to be here for the healthy majority, if not all of the regular season. Nico can't go out there and do it by himself. So if you all are telling me they can't expect nothing from Mitch, they didn't develop Xavier Hutchinson, who came out of the same program as both of these two and was a better receiver when he came out, given the accolades and what he accomplished there in Iowa, then how can we reasonably expect you can't give me anybody other than CeeDee Lamb that played against this level of competition that has translated? The only thing I hear in this group about those two, and it's not personal with those two, this is about wins and losses, talent and development. Y'all can't give me anything other than hope on how what they do is going to translate to wins on Sunday for the Houston Texans.
Hey, I told you this past week what mine was. My number one thing. They catch the football. Higgins catches the football at an extreme rate. And I don't care what conference he played in. If you got hands and you got the ability to get free and you catch the football.
He was also a better wide receiver prospect to me than Luther Burden.
If he can catch, I bet he can play.
But Luther Burden was about off-field stuff, John, and you know it had nothing to do with
so Luther Burden for sure was about off-field stuff. And wide receiver is a position that I love to study because it's fascinating to me how much they've grown the NFL over the last 15 years. Wide receivers have saved quarterbacks in the last 15 years. So when I look at the prospect, Luther Burden, you got to do a lot of times to get him the ball and get him involved on offense. He doesn't sail routes like I think Jaden Higgins does. And also when I look at the issues of last year from CJ Stroud and how some of those passes were selling over receivers' heads and some of those passes may have been too high. He's a guy in the last 2 years, 2 drops, over 2,100 receiving yards, 15 TDs, big bodies, his defenders close to him. I think he's a better prospect than Luther Burden. I think Emeka Egbuka, for all intents and purposes, did Houston need another slot receiver? Now, offenses are getting very creative now to get these guys the ball. So I understand that. But for what it's worth in terms of situation based off of 2024, Yes, my expectation for Jaden Higgins is to come in and have the same impact of a Kamari Lassiter and a Caleb Bullock, who was at USC. And how much does a Pack 6, 8? I don't know what they call now. Pack 9.
The pack gone away.
Yeah.
They're done.
I don't know how much defense they play over there, but he's going to come in with the expectation you'll get the reps, you're going to get the targets. We need for you to do what you do best. And I don't see why we can't expect for him to do that. My expectation is for him to do it.
Give me one receiver that the Houston Texans have drafted outside of the first round in the Nick Caserio era, because I think was Nico.
Nico was a third-round pick, yes.
I'm going to say other than Nico, give me one.
Well, he's only taken two others. He's taken Tank Dell, who's been a hit, even though he's been hurt. When he plays, he's a hit.
Whenever that is.
And then there's John Mechie, who was a
they drafted in the
I forgot. Okay, I forgot Hutchinson. My bad.
So give me an example where this organization has developed a wide receiver that's not a freak athlete. Oh, by the way, where did Nico Collins play his football?
He played for a bad Michigan team that didn't throw the football.
Oh, you mean he played for
Big Ten football?
He played in the second best conference in the country.
Big Ten football, yes.
That kind of matters.
I think it matters, but at the same time, man, like I think you watch the player, you study the tape, you see what they're capable of, and that's what you go off of. Like I understand the competition, and that's something to talk about and stuff like that, but you can't just hang your hat on just that.
And I do want to add,
say just that.
Tape for tape.
But that's at the forefront of your argument.
No, I'm painting it out. Like, listen what I'm saying carefully.
Well,
Higgins is a NFL prospect. They had a second-round grade on him. They took him. I don't have a problem with the player. What I'm saying is specific to where the Texans are. You cannot go into a playoff game at Kansas City or in Baltimore again, and all you got out there is Nico.
Why? Those teams go out there with guys that aren't household names all the time win football games. Why can't they?
They also go out there with guys that win MVPs at the quarterback position. Like
why can't the quarterback here win an MVP?
What?
So why can't the quarterback here win an MVP? He's got that level of talent.
Well, maybe if you threw it OTAs, we could get
Stand.
The contrarian. The contrarian. I want to add tape for tape, scout for scout, like view for view. Jaden Higgins is a better wide receiver prospect than Xavier Hutchinson.
And I do want to point out too, John, Higgins was taking 2 picks outside the first round. I mean, are we talking about that big of a difference between pick 34 and 32 at that point? Is it really that big of a difference? It's just the word, right?
Shout out to Iisha. She said everybody, or he said everybody forgets about Kirk. Nobody's forgetting about Kirk. The conversation right now, I'm on the YouTube live, by the way. The conversation right now is, can the Houston Texans, I guess, expect to see the same output from the 2025 draft class like they saw from the 2024 draft class? My response to that is Higgins will be in the same situation Kamari Lassiter is walked into. They need you right now. They need you for a number 2 role. The number 1 guy is as good as it gets. We're going to get you ready. And with Nick Kaling, what I believe he'll do, and this is where it can kind of backfire because I don't know, but what I believe he'll do, they'll find ways to use him as a quote-unquote power slot to get him easy targets. They'll find ways to get him on some of those hitch routes. They'll find ways to get him the ball down the field. And with his hands, with his catch radius, with his 6'4" frame, 4'4" speed, I am inclined to believe he'll come down with those catches. He'll make plays.
Well, let's hope he does for the Texans standpoint. Let's take one last quick timeout. We can wrap up our thoughts here. We'll get a little bit, of course, on our obligatory offensive line discussion because you got to get that in. It's the Squad Show here on the Locked On Texans page. We've been doing plenty of arguing tonight. I think we're finally going to get real with each other here on the Texans Squad Show. We're all going to hate each other from here on out. No, I'm kidding. We love each other.
By the way, I do want to add, Ben McDaniels has been here for some time now, Stan. So to your point, you talk about developing receivers. Now that's where it may get to coaching.
Ben McDaniels.
That was going to be my next thing. Like, Stan, you worried about these players? Hey, scheme them open. Give them opportunities. Figure out what works best for them. Like it also too, because I'm listening to what you're saying about y'all's wide receivers and all this stuff, and my mind is saying, okay, who's coaching them? what's happening here. You can't keep taking guys in these high rounds and they're not panning out and not have the conversation of, is this coaching, is this scheme or anything like that. We can't completely put the onus on the player.
On Sundays, those are aliens out there.
Oh,
and
tater tots.
And you better go get you some aliens. And
What?
right now, I'm asking the Houston Texans wide receiver room for the last 3 years, when Tank Dell is not in the lineup, what has been more often the case than is the case.
No pushback.
All due respect.
No pushback.
When you go into that wide receiver room and you look around, I can go in the defensive end room and feel real good. I can go in the secondary room and feel awesome. With Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard and Shaq Mason last year, from a talent standpoint, you can go in that offensive line room and go, okay, excuse me, I can go play a real NFL game. When you walk in the tight end room, when Brevin Jordan is healthy, even with Cade Stover in his rookie year and Dalton Schultz, you can go walk in the tight end room. Pro Football Focus just ranked
Oh, no.
Dalton Schultz the 13th best tight end in the league. I'd say that's probably right. He's a slightly above average tight end. So I can at least go in the room and know I got a shot in the hell on Sunday with my tight end room. When you walk in that wide receiver room right now, I see Nico, and it's a whole bunch of question marks.
You turn your head the opposite way, you're going to see another 6'4", 215-pound receiver over there too now.
That wasn't better than Xavier Hutchinson when he came out of school? Didn't have a better career than Hutch in the same program?
He wasn't there yet.
All I'm saying is, did the general manager prioritize weapons for CJ at a high enough clip to be winning playoff games in January and February? I'm starting to wonder even more so now. I don't know that he did. We scream O-line, O-line, O-line. I'm saying, should Nick have found a way to get back in that first round and go get whether it's a Emeka Egbuka or Ted McMillan or somebody else?
I gotta ask the question. At what point do we start? Because I know that this is something that I've been guilty of in the past, in the years on the radio, and it's been different regimes throughout all of it. At what point do we give Nick Caserio a little credit? Like, he hit on a lot of draft picks. Like, there's a reason why they turned this thing around. Like, I might not love some of the stuff that they do, but like they've done. Yeah, I mean, like, at what point though do we think, man, maybe they have an idea of what they could be doing? Again, I know that he's a rookie, and you got to go out and prove that you're a rookie. But like, I don't know, I feel pretty comfortable with how they go into drafts, even if they're not going to do everything that I love.
So here's what football tells me: as fantastic as Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were as a combination, hear me clearly. Even Bill had a blind spot, the greatest to ever do it. He had a problem with wide receiver. Who hits on wide receivers every time they draft one? The Pittsburgh Steelers. There are cultural habits in professional football draft analysis that matter. The Dallas Cowboys find offensive linemen. That's what they do.
That's what they do.
I'm like, we can keep going. There are certain organizations that just hit. The New York Giants believe in finding pass rushers. No matter who the general manager is, they find guys that go get the passer. So all I'm asking our GM, to your point, Michael Connor, that has been excellent. They had to go build a foundation. They went and got two of the best to do it when they got CJ and Will. Outstanding. They developed Nico. Nico did the work. He finally stayed healthy. Outstanding. Congratulations to Nico. I was cool with rolling the dice on Tank Dell. Brother has had an issue staying healthy. Okay, I get it. On the offensive side on the football, who else have they developed offensively? Who is Nick Caserio and whoever has been the head coach? Who have they developed other than Nico?
I mean, honestly just go. I'm going and looking at their draft history.
The left guard.
I will say this: they don't draft a ton of offensive players all over the place. The biggest spot that they drafted
isn't here anymore.
Yeah, the guard. Look, there's no denying that their drafting of the offensive line has not been great, right?
Well, I mean,
so where's all of this belief coming from?
Well, okay, so Stan, would you have felt better if they went out and got a veteran wide receiver to go with the rookies?
They did. They went and got Christian Kirk.
Yeah, again. So did you want them to get a boundary receiver?
I want them to do one or two things. Get
So
Christian.
that's what I'm
Kirk.
trying to figure out, because if I'm the GM and I'm listening to you right now, I'm like,
Yeah.
we went and got a solid slot. Granted,
Yeah. So you got your boundary. That's Nico. Then you got your slot in Christian Kirk.
So it's resources though. Like they went out, they acquired Christian Kirk for your slot, and they went out and drafted 2 wide receivers.
And I'm questioning the ones they drafted. Now, what you could have done is use that draft capital and call up there to Florham Park, New Jersey. They could have called up there to Florham Park and said, hey, Aaron Glenn, yeah, you're disgruntled wide receiver that used to catch passes from my quarterback named Garrett Wilson. I'll send you something. You're building a program. I have draft picks. I'll send you my picks. You send me your disgruntled receiver. So I'll take Garrett Wilson over Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noble.
You want proven talent.
That's what wins. If you are not an alien, and you know the alien, Randy Moss went to Marshall. You knew he was an alien. Brandon Marshall went to University of Central Florida. You knew he was an alien. If you are an alien, then I'm going to need you to come from competitive football situations, i.e. conferences, or I'm going to have to use, when you're in a championship window that the Texans are in, when you have Super Bowl aspirations, I'm going to need you to go make sure your quarterback has enough tools in an offensive league. I am not hanging the Super Bowl hopes of the Houston Texans on 2 rookies from Iowa State.
So why not hanging on the extremely underwhelming tight end group performance of 2024? Why not? Why? Because when we look at what we want from this offense, we want it to be a better offense, right? No question. We want this offense to look like a real NFL offense. Okay, well, if we look at all of the skill players, the vet of the vet is Dalton Schultz. And where was he last year?
He didn't play well.
Didn't play well. So when I look at 2025 and bouncing back from 2025, the production has to be all hands on deck. And this is from a person that watched Tom Brady for 20 years. Everybody needs to, especially when they won the championship, everybody has to be on the same page. And so looking forward, what is the realistic expectation, yards and TDs for Jaden Higgins? Let's be realistic. Let's be fair.
Yards and TDs?
Yards and TDs.
Well,
for me, it's between 650 and 800 yards, 5 or 6 TDs.
Yeah, I was gonna say about 500 yards, maybe 4 TDs.
Where's the realistic expectation for Dalton Schultz if he's still on this roster come week 1?
Less than that. Dalton Schultz will have, and he should have. Dalton Schultz should have fewer receiving touchdowns and yardage than the number 2 wide receiver playing with CJ Stroud.
He can have that. He can have the touchdowns, but what, 500 yards probably max?
So let me ask you this. Fast forward New Year's Day. I don't even know what day that is. I'm just saying January football. We go back to Arrowhead. Nico's over there. Higgins is over there. Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, and Christian Kirk. Do you have the confidence that that's going to win you a playoff game?
Yeah.
In those environments?
Yeah. Their defense is going to show up well enough to where they just need just enough, Stan. Just enough to get by. That's all it takes.
Honestly, that's what the Chiefs did the other year because they drafted Rashee Rice, who, again,
Rashee Rice in the second.
Didn't come from nowhere fancy, in your opinion, Stan. Competition.
Rashee Rice in the second round.
And they didn't go out in free agency and do a whole bunch either. They just brought in that rook and depended on what he needed to do.
Rashee Rice in the second round playing with what will be the greatest quarterback in the history of the game and a first ballot Hall of Fame offensive play caller.
We're talking about but that Chiefs offensive line wasn't that good. That Chiefs offensive line wasn't that good.
When you play with Patrick Mahomes, it is instantly going to put you in an advantageous position because the guy is cerebral regardless of the protection because he's attached to the mental capacity of the play caller. If you don't have Andy Reid and if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, everybody else on earth had better go get you 2 guys. The current Super Bowl champions have 2 wide receivers that play where? in the Southeastern Conference.
Oh, no, they play on the boundary. Don't get it twisted. I'm not crazy. And Dallas
And I'm not
Goedert
yelling at y'all. I
enough.
just get passionate
No.
about the conversation.
Dallas Goedert doesn't get enough love for what he does for the team.
All
But I'm tracking all that. I'm just saying the Chiefs did what you saying that the Chiefs did what Houston is doing right now.
And they had Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
And I
we out there with
understand
Nick
that.
Cayley, a defensive-minded head coach, and CJ Stroud.
I'm just talking about the team building. I'm talking about the development. I'm talking about the
together.
Competition or where they're coming from. Because ain't nobody
Lamar Jackson, when you have Lamar Jackson and you have Mark Andrews, you can go get receivers that come from wherever. Because you got two aliens.
Yeah, but does Lamar win football games in the most important time? No, he's not done anything. He's gotten to January and lost every single time.
And
he hadn't won it all.
Stroud becomes as good as Lamar Jackson. Y'all playing.
Okay, but they've accomplished the exact same thing in the league outside of MVPs. They've not done anything in the playoffs.
Lamar Jackson should be 3-time NFL MVP.
Okay, that's great. That's an individual award for the regular season.
He has played in a conference title
People are going to think we hate each other. We do not hate each other.
We don't. This is fun.
We do not hate each other. No, it's. I think it's just one of those questions we really have to wait and see.
We're gonna have to wait and see.
To look at the production, and I think that's fair. I am calling for more from the tight end unit, though, and I think that's fair as well. When I look at
because that's going to open up things for those young guys. Sorry, I didn't know you were still talking. I'm sorry.
No, just I look at Dalton Schultz. I feel like this is his 9th year in the NFL. He's a vet. He had a lackluster year. He signed that extension. Now, the offense asked him to do things he's not comfortable with or good at. So the hope is that won't be the same this year. But there's no way we can look at like the landscape of this offense and not at least say, hey, Dalton, please raise your level of play. Please be better in games where we're not seeing you kind of quit on routes, whiff on blocks. Please be better in protection. Give us something. Like that matters a lot of it, actually.
Ooh, I know.
The tight end matters. I don't
no,
have
it
an
does
issue
matter.
with that.
No, it does matter, and obviously, like when you have a guy like Nico that people respect the downfield threat and things like that, it's going to open up things for you. So if you need your tight end to be able to attack the middle of the field and make people pay, make them pay for sitting in that too high shell. Don't just sit there. So I'm looking for this offense to attack the middle of the field, but also too, I don't know. I think I'm going to give these young gentlemen a chance to show what they are capable of before I hold reservation for what I think they're capable of.
I believe in show me. I don't give you anything in this league. You have to show me that your skills
guaranteed contract. They just gave one of them a fully guaranteed contract.
And that's beautiful. I need to see you on Sunday. Go get busy. I need to see you on Sunday. Go be productive. And for the young man's sake, both of those young receivers, I hope they do. I really do. And I will be right here saying in real time, hey, I wasn't sure about y'all. I had my doubts. You've proved me wrong. Until that's the case, and nobody can find me any recent historical data to support their argument, this comes down to simple, we believe in hope that young guys drafted at a certain spot. I'm talking about documented football over the course of recent history, over multiple teams throughout the course of the league.
But that plays a big role. Like, come on, you're a former scout. You know that kids going to these different schools has a lot to do with other stuff. Sometimes they just go places because they family like it. Did you go look at the offers that they had, these kids? Did you go look and see if they had offers at any other schools? You do that, Stan, you come tell me. Because if they got anything that's in the division that you talking about, I want to know.
When you cut the lights on Sunday, all that matters. Are you used to balling or are you not used to balling? I'm telling you.
I don't agree with that because Tyler Smith down here starting for Dallas at left guard. That's one of the best left guards in football. Came from Tulsa.
You are turning the argument.
It don't matter like that. Like it matters. It don't matter like that.
No, you're turning the argument into some elitist about the school. It's not just the school.
You're focusing on the school. You're focusing on the program and all this stuff. Like I just think it's not in respect.
Show me a Big 12 wide receiver over the past 6 seasons that has come in the NFL and gotten busy. You can't give me one.
CD?
That is empirical.
Stan, what you're doing is profiling, and profiling is wrong, sir.
What I'm doing is scouting, and that's what it's about.
Is it? Because a scout is going to find talent anywhere.
I literally just said
okay.
You can find Puka Nacua was not taken in the second round.
Puka Nacua wasn't on really that many people's radars. That's why scout. That's my
If
point.
he was,
Well, we don't get paid for that.
we're talking about a receiver taken in the second round. That is being
2 picks outside of the first round. I want to point that out again. That's it.
And
2
the
picks.
thing is, the Texans. That's another thing, Stan. The Texans weren't the other only team that thought this kid was in that spot. They should have been.
I don't give a damn about other teams. I'm talking about the Houston Texans because the Houston Texans are the only ones with CJ Stroud. The Houston Texans are the only ones with Nick Caley, and the Houston Texans are the only one with a team that has gone on the road in 2 consecutive seasons in the wild card round and gotten their butts beat because they could not compete with the other team's offensive firepower. That's all I care about.
Give the kids a chance, Stan.
I didn't say I wasn't. Just because I don't love them don't mean that I hate them. It just means they got to show me. Come on, Mike. Let's talk about these offensive linemen, please.
All right, real quick because we're running over our time. Offensive line. What are we thinking as it's into week 2 of OTAs? Is it finally we feel like we're getting a little bit of something here in terms of some juice in the direction that they're going?
Shout out to Andrews. He's holding it down on the inside at center. I saw a clip today, and of course, it's just a clip. I don't want to react to it, but I saw a little nice, smoother pass off a little bit on the inside. Blake Fisher holding it down their right side, right tackle with Titus Howard. I think for the Houston Texans, I saw that. I think for the Houston Texans, they are going to go with talent in terms of. Now, they got to get talent on their line. I think Andrews may be the more talented center, and he also may be the more, in terms of technique, the most refined center on that team as well. So I'm okay with it right now. Now, granted, as a former offensive lineman, none of what they really are doing right now, like it matters a little bit, but it ain't going to too much matter until you're able to actually just get hit. And so that's when we're going to really start kind of evaluating these guys for week 1. But right now, I at least like what they're doing. They're getting guys out there that rotate, and they're trying to figure out, mentally who can handle what we're asking of them.
Go ahead,
Stan, Iisha.
Stan can chime in first.
He's thinking it up. It's brewing.
I think it's very.
He's thinking. I'm kind of where John is like, obviously we can't tell a whole bunch, but you can just kind of see some of the stuff they're trying to do. I saw a few moving pockets today in the few clips that I saw, and I thought that was cool. It's just trying to get these guys on the move, obviously kind of preparing for CJ, who he's able to maneuver the pocket and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, if that's something that you're doing, I think that the team has to be cognizant of the offensive line and do things to their strengths right now. So if that is something that, if moving the pocket a little bit gives these guys a little bit more space to operate, gives them strong bases or foundation, then do that. So that's about all I have about the offensive line right now, because John said it, like, we don't know nothing yet. But the combination that they're throwing out there right now seems like it's moving fast and that they're gaining some cohesiveness, and that's all we care about. That's all I care about.
DeMeco said today that he was very impressed with. He said it was a noticeable difference.
And he did say that. That's major. I'm glad you pointed that out. I forgot.
Yeah, he said he was very impressed, and it was noticeable that the pad level, no pads on, but hand placement, pad level, and I'm going to paraphrase, like the vibe. He said the continuity and the vibe. I think he was taking a shot at Laramie Tunsil. I think he was saying this is noticeable that Laramie Tunsil is not here with some of those bad habits. And we finally have a group that's bought into doing it the way that it is being coached. I thought that was also a feather in the cap of offensive line coach, former assistant offensive line coach, Cole Popovich. I think one thing is clear. Lakin Tomlinson is your starting left guard. Cam Robinson is your starting left tackle. Jake Andrews has right now usurped Jared Patterson at center. We'll circle that one to see if we need to come back to that. Right guard right now, Titus, and Blake Fisher is the right tackle. The starting offensive line has appeared for now to have materialized. I want to hear more about why Andrews over Patterson. It is believed this offensive line was all about mass. They wanted to get much bigger. They wanted guys that were more girth, that could anchor a little bit more in that offensive line and move some guys out of the way, more so than Laramie Tunsil, a bit more of a finesse game. I'd like this Blake Fisher versus Patterson is interesting. My last nugget, it was
Andrews
brought up
versus
today, and I
Patterson.
think it's an interesting point. Could we see Jared Patterson and his 18 career starts, including 2 in last year's postseason, could we see Jared Patterson, a former sixth-round pick by the Texans, traded to a team like Detroit, who could be looking for some depth, given that Ragnow just retired? Could they be looking for a guy, whether Tate Ratledge out of the University of Georgia? Funny, there's another team that's playing for a Super Bowl, going to get the guys out of the SEC, where real dudes play in the anyway, I digress. I'm curious to see if Drew Scruggs becomes the backup center and they move Patterson.
I wouldn't be shocked. I would maybe look at that move and decision, and maybe that's like a trade deadline type of decision, because with the uncertainty, at least as of right now with that offensive line, and again, we're not in pads. Luckily for Houston, they'll have 2 joint practices. I think that's a huge blessing for the Houston Texans. But you still want to make sure that you have that D word, that's depth, just in case you don't make it home tonight. And so I would say, if the deal is right, go ahead. But if you can hold on to him at least throughout the week, up to the bye week, trade deadline, then maybe you do that to make sure you have the depth that you need. To answer your first question really quick, I think the advantage that Jake Andrews brings is he's just more technically sound than those other guys competing in the room right now.
A guy with one career start is more technically sound than the dude out there in the playoffs winning.
No, I'm not looking at games played and not games played. I'm looking at based off of what they've seen and what I've seen from Andrews, a little bit of his time in the preseason with the Patriots a couple years ago, going back to Troy, where he has a relationship with Cole Popovich, who is now his offensive line coach. I look at the mental aspect of it. And I said this on y'all Locked On Texans podcast. Mentally and technique, where is he right now? And what does he bring right now compared to the other guys? Because mentally, that was an error for the Houston Texans on the inside last year. What am I picking up? What am I doing? I'm sorry.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do.
They didn't know what to do. So if you have a guy that can come in right now and mentally he knows his assignment, I don't need nobody to tell me, because I know, because I practice it and I know what this coach is looking for. You have an advantage. Technique-wise, you have an advantage. It won't really come down until we get into those pads, though.
Last thing for me, Jared Patterson outplayed Drew Scruggs, a second-round pick from Penn State. I'm pretty sure he can unseat a former fourth-round pick that hadn't played since 2023 for real, a guy that went to Troy. I think Jared Patterson's the better center, but I'm not in the room with him. I'm not out there on the field with him. We'll get our chance to see when they put the pads on. I just find it hard to believe that Patterson isn't in there.
We're creeping closer to that, and we're also creeping closer, by the way, to Friday. You guys, it's been a blast. It's been over an hour. It flies by.
We don't hate each other. Everybody.
We don't.
Oh, no.
The theme of the show is ELE. Everyone loves everyone. That's the great philosopher Jackie Moon once said.
Good reference.
Iisha,
Good reference.
They're used to this. You'll see. This is I get in these spaces, and it's
you ain't gotta be scared of me. I'll fight you on it.
Well,
you ain't gotta worry about me. I'll fight you on
it. Good news.
Fight show.
You're gonna fight again in a couple of days. We will be back Friday for another edition of this show. Make sure, of course, that you hit the subscribe button to the YouTube page. Make sure you're checking out John's stuff between now and then. Like he said, go check out the Rookie Diaries that he's working on as well. Fantastic work as always. We appreciate you stopping by, listening, and watching. We'll do it again Friday. Texans Squad Show.